Story 1. Family vloggers monetize their toddlers and babies, earning a lot of money by placing cameras near them around the clock. Nothing is off limits. They make children cry and record it, and film every diaper change and potty accident. This should be illegal. Story 2. Subscription models exist for every service. Gone are the days of curated collections. Now you own nothing. Story 3. Using therapy speak to justify toxic behavior is making it difficult for people with actual issues to be taken seriously when someone who has likely never seen a therapist uses medical terminology to explain why they are allowed to be assholes in public. Story 4. Hauls of just about anything are incredibly wasteful. I imagine most influencers who create them cannot use all the products before they are pressured to make more content. They also encourage ordinary people to do the same, which generates a lot of plastic waste and increases demand for cheap, unethical labor. Story 5. Posting everything on social media. I used to post many stories on Instagram and WhatsApp. At some point, I thought no one cared about what I posted, so I stopped. I would check who saw my posts and got annoyed when someone I did not like viewed my stories. Now I do not post on social media anymore, and I am happier. Story 6. Celebrity tequila refers to using hydrolysis on young agave instead of mature agave, creating a neutral alcohol that is later flavored with additives. This drives up the price of agave and results in an artificial tequila rather than a traditional tequila made from agave matured for 7 years. Story 7. People are posting children's personal, emotional, and vulnerable moments. They are literally exploiting children for likes and followers. Crying, dying, misbehaving, confused, or humiliated. Story 8. Normalizing plastic surgery, fillers, and Botox for teens. Story 9. Instagram tourism is trashing beautiful places because people feel they have to have that photo. Story 10. Steroid use is becoming increasingly common among teenage boys and young men. Social media promotes numerous fitness influencers who lie about using steroids and creates pressure to emulate them, which leads many to start. A few months into weightlifting, I began receiving ads for steroids on Reddit. In a few years, we are likely to see these young men develop serious health problems from using steroids at a vulnerable age. Story 11. People are censoring themselves to get around algorithms, which makes it difficult to talk about serious subjects like suicide, sexual assault, death, and drugs. They use euphemisms such as self-deletion and unalive. This self-censorship is bleeding into other platforms and venues without restrictions because it becomes a habit. As a result, important conversations about these topics are being watered down. Story 12. I live in the Canadian Rockies, and many tourists get themselves hurt or stranded trying to get Instagram pictures beside waterfalls or precipices. Story 13. This is not new, but it reduces everything to a star rating. The relationship between people's actual experiences and their star ratings is weak and barely correlated. Some people never give 5 stars because they believe no one deserves 5 stars. They might give 1 star because, although the food was good, the waiter made them wait 10 minutes too long for the check, and that ruined the experience because they are the paying customer and value their time highly. Another person in the same situation might be more tolerant and give 3 or 4 stars. 2 people can receive the same burger, but one says it was exactly what they wanted and gives 5 stars, while the other says it was exactly what they expected and gives 3 stars. This assumes reviewers report accurately and include details that are unfavorable to themselves. Some reviews are paid for or written out of spite. When we look for somewhere new to go or something to buy, we usually sort by star rating, which ignores all the nuance in unreliable reviews. The companies that aggregate ratings profit from this and want people to reduce a complex mixture of factors, including interaction with staff, price, cleanliness, durability, and so on, to a single number. Amazon allows rating specific attributes of a product, which is a step in the right direction, but most places do not offer that option. Story 14. We are trading most of our privacy in exchange for convenience. Story 15. It is like everyone suddenly became a contestant on a reality television show where the goal is to showcase a flawless life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Behind the scenes, it is a different story. People spend hours staging the perfect shot, filtering out imperfections, and carefully curating their online personas. Edit. By the way, I just entered the original poster's question into the chat generative pre-trained transformer and copied and pasted one of the answers. Story 16. Helicopter parenting leaves children unable to problem solve, self-soothe, make decisions, meet new people, or communicate with bosses or professors. I know parents who will not let their teenagers learn to drive because they think 16 is too young. Then, at 18, those same parents send these young people to college after teaching them their whole lives that every stranger wants to kidnap, rape, or murder them and that walking after dark is life-threatening. Now they must room with a stranger on a campus full of unknown people and walk to and from class, sometimes after dark. There is a reason so many young adults have anxiety disorders. I know people in their 20s who have panic attacks when they need to call to make a doctor appointment. Story 17. One trend gaining momentum and potentially causing harm is doom scrolling. This refers to the habit of endlessly scrolling through negative news or social media feeds, often leading to feelings of anxiety, depression, and helplessness. Story 18. Within 1 to 2 generations, we have completely given up our privacy, and we did so willingly. Society made a devil's bargain, trading privacy for shiny technology, and it has not been worth it. Now, with artificial intelligence, we will have individualized artificial intelligence agents. Like with the cloud, they will be hosted and will hold your most private information. Heaven forbid you are allowed to host them yourself and keep your own data. That cannot be allowed. Story 19. Consumer culture encourages excessive purchasing. One person does not need 20 cups merely because they are different colors. Social media persuades people to buy such items, which often end up used in cabinets or discarded in landfills. Health and wellness influencers are widespread. It is difficult to say whether this is a new trend, but many lack formal expertise in the topics they promote, yet they amass millions of followers. Story 20. iPads for toddlers. Let's destroy our kids' dopamine receptors before they can even talk properly. Sounds great. Story 21. Filters and photoshopping that make people appear unrealistically thin can lead young people to aspire to unattainable ideals, causing depression and self-loathing. It is sad. Story 22. Destigmatizing mental health is great. However, widespread self-diagnosis and excessive acceptance used to justify poor, lazy, or entitled behavior is not helpful. I am sorry for people who are truly struggling, but you still need to take responsibility for your mental health and put effort into growing and healing. Story 23. Giving phones and tablets to literal babies for hours a day because it is easier than managing your children is harmful. I cannot imagine the damage it is causing to their underdeveloped brains. Story 24. House rentals by corporations and Airbnb can be taken too far when a community ends up with few permanent residents. Story 25. A lot of tourism experiences involve people putting themselves in danger for clout. Some people go to the Paris catacombs and take unofficial tours or explore beyond public areas. Those sections are closed not for fun, but because you can get lost or die if you go down those routes. Tourism in Pripyat increased after the Chernobyl series. Visiting can be interesting, but do not touch objects. Background radiation is not much higher than normal in many places, but solid items such as stuffed animals and shoes can still be contaminated. You can sometimes see effects on film or digital sensors. It is generally safe to be in Pripyat for a few hours, but it remains uninhabitable for a reason. By the way, you can pet the Pripyat dogs, but make sure to wash your hands afterward. Perhaps the most common example is Mount Everest. Authorities have begun removing some bodies near the peak, but if you are not a seasoned climber, do not attempt the world's highest mountain. Visiting base camp is different. It is around the elevation of the highest permanent settlements and is generally safer. Do not attempt the summit on your first climb. Many people survive, but many die. Climb other mountains first. Story 26. Parasocial relationships with celebrities. Swifties, the Bayhive, the Barbs, and others. Story 27. AirPods are worn constantly. I think that in 20 years we will see a lot of hearing damage in people who are now too young to have it. Story 28. Anything that starts with TikTok and ends with challenge. Story 29. Short videos like TikTok, Vines, and Reels are seriously harming people's attention spans, and I'm worried about future generations who grow up with them. Story 30, Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer. I feel like I am unable to produce a long, coherent piece of text anymore, and I notice that models language on LinkedIn, in resumes, in product descriptions, and elsewhere. Story 31, the Botox and dermal filler trend among younger women is striking. Social media already makes life complicated. Imagine growing up now with easy access to these treatments. The push to maintain youth often results in younger people resembling the older patients who use these procedures to look younger. Teenagers and people in their 20s sometimes end up looking like people in their 40s or 50s trying to appear 30. Story 32. Children who rarely spend significant time outdoors are more likely to develop nearsightedness and, as adults, to have reduced emotional stability during times of adversity. Story 33. Using the word trigger incorrectly. For example, if Karen says she is triggered by a coupon policy, she probably just dislikes the policy. A real trigger comes from trauma. For example, if you were in a car accident involving a semi-truck and now become frightened on the highway when riding next to a semi-truck, you are triggered by that traumatic event. You are not triggered by something you simply do not like. You are just angry or you disagree. Story 34. People are being scammed out of thousands of dollars, and those who are caught are barely punished. Story 35. Hear me out. Artificial intelligence is being used specifically to write essays, make art, produce media, and so on, replacing critical thinking and creativity with predictive models. We are getting worse at basic media literacy as artificial intelligence becomes better at producing passively appealing or coherent content. Art, stories, pictures, movies, and songs serves a function. It teaches us how to see from perspectives unlike our own. Remember that boring English paper where you had to speculate why a character acted a certain way? Or the people who ask what Portrait of Ross in Los Angeles makes you feel, or what the artist was trying to say instead of responding casually? Or those who argue Star Wars is about empiricism rather than about Baby Yoda and lightsabers? Anti-intellectualism has always existed, and fandom discourse has long been chaotic. But recently there seems to be growing disdain for creatives and for content that is not hyper-specialized to an individual's exact tastes with literal surface-level messaging. An artist posts a song on TikTok and the comments are full of questions like, "What does this mean?" Or, "Is this song about X? Can I still listen if I identify as Y?" Shows and stories spark arguments. You cannot like a villain because they do bad things, which is taken to mean you endorse bad behavior, and so does the author. The only perceived value in art becomes a 2-second dopamine hit of pretty colors and shapes, so a passable slurry of artificial intelligence images is considered sufficient. Nothing is thought to mean anything. Art only needs to grab attention long enough to sell something. Training people not to think critically will hurt us as artificial intelligence improves at creating deepfakes and generating false videos, news footage, and articles. Story 36. The entire Luxmaxing culture is misleading. Most of it does not actually work, and those who promote it online profit from young, insecure individuals. Story 37. Pretty much all of these comments boil down to social media. Social media has ruined everything from self-image to dating to political elections. It has hamstrung the internet, changed the way we shop, and may eventually lead to the total unusability of the internet. We already live in a world where most of the information you seek online is either artificial intelligence-generated written content, social media content posted by users such as Reddit, which will be mostly bots soon, or content produced by content creators, which will become even more corporate as time goes on. A content creator is either making big money creating algorithm-driven trash or making YouTube videos effectively for free while attempting to get monetized. People are worried about Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer. I am too. But the internet as a whole is going to become a Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer-powered search engine, leading to Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer-powered user experiences very soon, to the point that you will basically only visit places you know by address, specific stores you want to visit, and so on. If you continue to browse the internet, purchases and attention will be funneled into seemingly independent stores selling the same products from the same manufacturers under different brands and advertising. If you think this is shocking, you should know this is basically 90% of Amazon's current revenue today. You may think this will produce useful resources like Wikipedia. I have been buying hundreds of millions of dollars worth of traffic per year, every year, for the last 15 years. The truth is that the people who pay most for your attention do not want to better your life. They want to sell to you or scam you. Good products and good companies do not typically give away 150% of the first-day purchase value to get a new customer. Only low-quality companies selling poor products or clickbait and ragebait advertisers selling clicks to mail enhancement advertisers and other non-Google-friendly advertisers do this. If you are a millennial like me, you lived through the golden age of the internet. There are no current vectors pushing to stop any of the above, and no financial reason to create any. Story 38. Buccal fat removal. I think this trend is likely to backfire severely as people age. Story 39. Instagram travel is ruining tourism. You cannot visit any famous place in the world now without being surrounded by people making vlogs trying to get noticed. Story 40. People use mental health issues, often without a professional diagnosis, as excuses to act like an asshole. Story 41. Those skin trends on TikTok where people share videos of their natural skin have comments filled with idiotic teens who are not dermatologists claiming that texture is not natural and is extreme sun damage. They say everyone just has to wear sunscreen with a high sun protection factor constantly and they will look like a baby forever. Story 42. The rising awareness of mental health and therapy has convinced some that every problem and stressor must be confronted and analyzed. Everyone's past and present are littered with mistakes and problems. It is not possible to dedicate the time or effort to confront each of them. Trying to address everything can backfire, causing more anxiety or helplessness. It may create a false sense of strength while actually making you weaker and more vulnerable. This is especially true for stresses that are common to many people. Constant armchair therapy can make you difficult to be around. Ignoring things, suppressing negative thoughts or emotions, or letting go sometimes are essential tools for maintaining mental health. Story 43. The disappearance of child-friendly spaces online, especially for girls, is alarming. Remember when toys like Barbie and Polly Pocket had websites filled with games where you could dress up characters, do makeovers, or design a dream bedroom? Those sites are much less common now. I have noticed a growing problem. Young girls have fewer safe online spaces where they can just be children, which leads them to imitate older teens and adults with makeup tutorials and get ready with me videos, growing up far too quickly. I saw a 12-year-old apply foundation while talking about adult topics like a beauty influencer. Story 44. There is an army of influencers who preach that success depends solely on your efforts. That is not how the world works. Story 45. Customers are being asked to pay a monthly subscription fee to enable car features. Tesla, Bayerisch Motor and Werke, Mercedes, Toyota, Subaru, and a few others are already requiring customers to pay a monthly fee for features such as high-beam headlights, remote locking, heated seats, and additional performance. Story 46. This may not be as important as some of the other issues raised, but the decline in ownership of physical media of any kind and large technology companies forcing people to move their data to the cloud concerns me. Convenience is going to ruin society. Products that are not built to last or to be reparable are another major issue. Allowing market speculation on essential resources like water is dangerous. Private equity and insurance companies entering the veterinary business and driving up the cost of treatment for profit, as they have done with human healthcare, is alarming. Banks and investment firms buying up homes for the same reason are also a problem. I could go on, but I will stop there. Story 47. Restocking videos make my 1990s reduce, reuse, recycle heart a little sad. Story 48. Meal kits generate a lot of plastic and other waste. Although the packaging can be recycled, most people do not. People who order Uber Eats for most meals also produce excessive packaging and fuel waste. For Amazon deliveries, I see 2 to 3 Amazon vans and 2 to 3 cars with Amazon magnets cruising through my neighborhood every day. The local Amazon hub needs to get organized. Story 49. Influencers who do not know or care about what they recommend just want attention. Story 50. Poor or no education combined with choosing a career such as a TikTok star or influencer. Story 51. The rise of sports gambling will cause many people to lose money. In a few years, the consequences will be severe when people have their lives destroyed by a gambling addiction accessible from their pocket. Story 52. The proliferation of online and mobile gambling across all major sports and the primetime advertising that promotes it are a serious concern. Gambling is a serious addiction. It can bankrupt an individual and their family very quickly and often shows minimal signs before it is too late. Society has allowed gambling, which had been fairly well contained, to explode in recent years. This will create serious problems, especially for young people, because of the ease of access. Story 53. The alpha male and red pill ideologies are popular among groups of men and teenagers. Story 54. I am hearing that choking during sex is becoming popular. That is a real way to cause brain damage. This is not intended to kink shame. I am kinky, but people in kink communities will tell you to learn the medical risks involved in any activity. People who watch the movie 50 Shades of Grey and then try choking at home may not know there are at least 4 ways to cause fatal injury by putting pressure on the wrong part of the neck, or that each time you pass out from lack of oxygen you lose brain cells. If someone researches the risks, learns the anatomy and safe techniques, and accepts the possibility of cumulative mild brain damage and a small risk of death with each session, that is their decision. However, most people doing this likely do not understand how dangerous it is. There are many other kinky activities that are much less risky. Choking should not be the default way to explore kink or rough sex. There are many alternatives and books on the subject. Story 55. Funko figures and other collectibles often end up in landfills when owners choose not to pack them for a move or when their families do not want to keep them. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.